Hello everyone, Dr. Hatami is here. In this short video, we're talking about the histology structure of blood vessels. Doesn't matter if it's artery or vein, our blood vessels are the hollow organs. So it means if you cut them and look at their cross section, you can find a hollow cavity at their center and a wall. So we can describe the lumen, which blood flow inside, and then the wall for our blood vessel. Now let's see what are the layers of the blood vessels, or why we call the blood vessel as an organ, as you can find different type of tissues in the wall of the blood vessel. Let's start from inside to the outside. The innermost layer of the blood vessel wall, it's called tunica interna. So tunica means layer and interna it means the innermost layer. So the innermost layer is called tunica intima. And then the middle layer is called tunica media, or the medial layer. And then you can find it just here. And the outermost layer is called tunica externa, which would be found around the blood vessels, or the outermost layer of the blood vessel. But what is tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica externa made up of? So tunica intima actually composed of the endothelium, which endothelium is the simple squamous epithelial tissue lining the blood vessels wall, lining the heart. So we call this as endothelium. So the innermost layer of the blood vessel is endothelium, which is part of the tunica intima. We have just one layer of flattened cells on top of the basement membrane. And always remember, under endothelium or epithelium, we should have a connective tissue, which is called subendothelial layer. And then tunica media, which is the middle layer, mostly is composed of the muscle. So the muscle tissue would be found in tunica media. But do you remember what type of muscle tissue? We talked about the skeletal muscle tissue, cardiac muscle tissue, and smooth muscle tissue. So the type of muscle tissue would be found in the wall of the blood vessels in tunica media is the smooth muscle. So these muscles can contract and relax and increase or decrease the diameter of the blood vessels. And then the outermost layer is tunica externa, which basically is composed of the connective tissue, most of the collagen fibers. So one more time, tunica intima actually is an epithelial tissue, which is called endothelium, the simple squamous epithelium, and tunica media made of smooth muscle, and tunica externa is composed of the connective tissue. So if you look at this picture, you can see at the left side we can find artery, and here we have vein. There are some differences between artery and vein that we can see in this picture. So as you can see, there is kind of a yellow layer between tunica intima and tunica media, which actually this layer is composed of elastic fiber, and we call this as internal elastic membrane. So as you can see, we have internal elastic membrane in wall of the arteries between tunica intima and tunica media, but we don't have it in our blood vessels. And also in between tunica media and tunica externa, there is another layer full of the elastic fibers, which is called external elastic membrane. So again, we have this in wall of the artery, but we don't have it in wall of the veins. And then capillary, which are the tiniest type of blood vessel, it has a very simple structure. It's just composed of the endothelial cells on top of the basement membrane, which makes it the thinnest type of blood vessel, which at the level of capillaries, we can have the exchanges of the nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and hormones. Okay, now let's review what we talk about the structure of the blood vessel. We said we have three layers in vessel's wall. We divided them to the tunica intima, the innermost layer, tunica media, the middle layer, and tunica externa, which is the outer layer. And we know that tunica intima, it's composed of the endothelial cell, which is the simple squamous epithelial tissue, and tunica media is composed of the smooth muscle cells, and which their contraction and relaxation can cause vasoconstriction and vasodilation in impact of the sympathetic nervous system, which vasoconstriction means when we have decreasing in vessel of the vessel diameter, which is when smooth muscle cell contract, and when we have vasodilation means increasing the vessel diameter is when the smooth muscle cells at the tunica media relax. And also we mentioned we have the internal elastic membrane and external elastic membrane found between tunica intima and tunica media and tunica media and tunica externa, which they are the collection of elastic fibers found in the artery. Okay, now let's look at the structure of artery and vein in just one picture and compare them together. So as you can see, the vein has a very thinner wall in comparison with the wall of the artery. And also the vein, they have a larger lumen in comparison with the artery. So they have larger lumen, but thinner wall. In artery, we have smaller lumen and we have a thicker wall. Okay, and then as you can see here, you can find these three layers. We have tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica externa for vein, tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica externa for artery. So if you compare, you easily can see tunica media is much thicker in artery in comparison with the vein. So it means that we have the smooth muscle wall thicker in artery and then the vein. And then also tunica like externa is much thicker in vein in comparison with the artery. And also do not forget the internal elastic membrane and external elastic membrane only going to be found in our artery but not in the veins. Okay, so now let's talk about the different types of arteries based on their sizes and structures and what makes them special. So we can divide arteries into the elastic arteries, muscular arteries, and arterioles. Elastic arteries, also called as conducting arteries, as they're going to conduct blood from the heart to the muscular arteries. So these are the largest arteries near the heart. The best example is like aorta and also pulmonary trunk. They're called elastic because they can stretch and recoil with each heartbeat. And in all of their layer, you can find elastic fibers. So their elasticity helps them handle the pressure changes as blood is pumped from the heart into these blood vessels. And then elastic arteries become smaller and smaller, making muscular arteries. Those muscular arteries is also known as distributing arteries, as they're going to distribute blood to the skeletal muscle, to the organs. So if you look at the structure of the muscular artery, you will see that their tunica media is much thicker than the other layers of this artery. So it means they have lots of smooth muscle in their tunica media. That's the reason we call them as muscular artery. Okay, and then arterioles. Arterioles are the smallest branches of the artery which lead into the capillaries. Their walls are thinner with only like a few layers of the smooth muscle cells, and their outer layer also isn't very defined. So if you compare the size of arterial wall with muscular artery or elastic artery, you will see that arterial it has the thinner wall in comparison with the muscular artery and elastic artery. So we divided arteries based on their sizes and structure to the elastic artery, which has many elastic fibers in all of their layers, and also it's a very, very large artery. And then muscular artery, like the artery going to the organs, like renal artery, axillary artery, these are the muscular artery, and arterial are the smallest artery leading to the capillary. Now let's talk about the vein. We can divide the veins again based on their sizes and structure to the large veins, medium-sized veins, and venules. So large veins, these are the biggest veins. The best example, superior and inferior vena cava. These two major veins bringing back blood from the upper part of the body and lower part of the body to the heart. They have a thin middle layer. It means their tunica media, the layer with smooth muscle, is very thin in comparison with their tunica externa. And also they have a large lumen, as they hold about 64% of the body's blood during the rest time, so it makes sense they have a large lumen. And then next we have medium-sized vein. These match the size of medium arteries or muscular arteries. They still have a thin layer of smooth muscle, but not much since they don't have to push blood as forcefully. So the blood pressure in veins is so low, so they don't need actually to have a larger blood vessels. Then venules. Venules. These are the smallest veins collecting blood from the capillaries, and some are less than 50 micrometers and don't even have a proper middle layer. So they're like tiny veins. So again, as you can see, the largest one, large vein, medium size vein, and then the smallest one is venule. And if you compare their structure of their wall, you will see that they they have thin tunica media, large lumen, and also thicker tunica externa. And also do not forget the large veins, they have valves as well. Now let's take a look at mechanism of venous return to the heart. So as we mentioned, in the wall of the vein, we do not have the thick tunica media. So it means they don't have that much smooth muscle to contract and push the blood out, right? And also the blood pressure in the veins are so low, and some areas is just zero. So it means that the blood itself cannot be pushed toward, especially in our lower limbs. So, and also they have to overcome gravity, especially when we are standing. How come this blood can return from the vein back to the heart? There are some factors helping blood flow return to the heart and also overcome the gravity, especially when we are standing. So we have skeletal muscle pump. It means that the skeletal muscles, especially in our lower extremities, in our leg, they contract and they can squeeze veins, as you can see in this picture. So if you're walking, you're running, so that's going to be a lot of help for skeletal muscle pump or for pumping or squeezing the veins and pushing the blood upward toward the heart. And also do not forget the importance of the valves. So the valves in veins, especially in large veins, prevent the blood from flowing backward. So when just pushing the blood toward the heart, so then this valve doesn't let the blood go backward. And also there is another factor which is important for blood flow from like abdomen to the thoracic veins, which is called respiratory pump. So respiratory pump is the changes in thoracic pressure during the inhalation. When we are inhale or breathe in, our chest cavity size increase, so the volume of our thoracic cavity increase and the pressure decrease. And at that time, we have increased pressure inside of our abdomen. So when we have more pressure in abdomen than thoracic, so then it's gonna push the blood from the abdominal area to the thoracic area, and that is called the respiratory pump, which has a direct relation with the our respiration inhalation. Okay, and now let's talk about a disorder of the vein, which is called varicose, which the varicose veins are the veins, they are twisted, they are swollen, and their drainage is slow. And actually, you can see blood to pool. So what's the reason? That is happening when valves in veins weaken or fail. So it means they cannot actually prevent backflow of the blood. So then the blood can get back after pushing upward. So that is gonna make this disorder. Thank you so much for watching.